We're live.
I want you to imagine that you are asleep. You had a long day the day before, so you're off in dreamland. You're comfortable. You're dreaming about home and your family, and then suddenly this huge, tough army guy in a Yogi Bear hat stands above you and says, "Drop and give me 20, Private." Well, that's how you'll wake up and go to sleep every day of basic combat training. The Army can be a fun and promising career, but one major step is basic combat training. It's definitely not a walk in the park. Today I'd like to tell you what Army basic combat training is all about. I will go over each phase and what happens in each individual phase. First off, though, the Army is not for everyone. Basic training is very mentally and physically challenging. Drill sergeants yell at you 24/7. You do things that you would never have to do as a civilian. From going into a gas chamber filled with a pepper spray type gas to learning the maintenance of all the basic Army weapons and how to shoot them. A whole lot of running, push-ups, obstacle courses, and sit-ups. Drill sergeants will be yelling at you from the time you wake up until your head hits the pillow. Despite what you think at the time, though, they don't hate you, nor do they want to rip your heart out. Being a soldier is a radical lifestyle change, and it's the job of the drill sergeants to get you into that lifestyle change. They have to break you down and build you back up to meet Army standards. They push you to your limits and then some, but if you can't think or function when a few drill sergeants are yelling at you, how will you think and do your job sufficiently in combat? Drill sergeants will be with you every step of the way, teaching you everything you need to know and showing you how to do your job proficiently and to Army standards. Something all my friends and family told me about basic is that you're going to get sick. You're going to get sick, both mentally and physically sick. It's just part of being in the Army, being away from your loved ones from long periods of times. Basic training will get you ready for deployment, both mentally and physically, and being sick is part of that. You're going to come to a point where I can't do this, or why the heck am I here, crosses your mind. That's totally normal and expected, and from what I understand, once you overcome that, you've taken a huge step of getting through basic training. My brother put it this way: I was being yelled at every day, the food was gross, I missed my friends and family, but it was all totally worth it. It makes you strong, but not normal civilian strong, but Army strong. And last, you will undergo huge lifestyle changes. You will not be the same person you were when you go home. I noticed this in all my brothers. They had gone through huge changes, but it's not a bad change. It's an honorable change that is well deserved, and it's a very high respect I had for them after basic training. Basic training is very mentally and physically challenging. You will undergo challenges and changes that in other civilian jobs you would never have to do. But it's all for a reason, and it will all pay off. Basic training is made up of 3 phases: red phase, white phase, and blue phase, and the ultimate goal of graduation. Each one you will undergo obstacles, and you have to overcome them mentally and physically. Red phase starts the moment you get off the bus. It is also referred to as Hell Week or Week 0. This is where you will undergo the legendary shark attack. You will be yelled at and called more names than you have ever been in your life. This is where the process of breaking you down so they can build you back up starts. Stories of the shark attack will be everywhere. Ask anybody that's been in the U.S. Army, and the chances are they're going to tell you about the shark attack. The shark attack is basically when you first arrive at your training company. You get on this bus. It's called the cattle car because that's pretty much what it is. It's just like the cattle cars that they put cows on going to the slaughter, which is kind of part of the mental aspect of the whole process. They ship you downrange to where the drill sergeants are waiting, and they're waiting there kind of like a group of hungry bears. That's pretty much what it will remind you of. And then those doors open, they get on the bus, they're yelling at you, they're pushing you around, calling you names. As I said before, despite what you think at that time, they don't want to rip your heart out, they're just doing their jobs. For every soldier that comes through, they have to understand that there's a chance that that person is going to be in combat, and it's their responsibility to get them ready for that situation. First and foremost, understand that red phase is all about failure. You're not going to be able to do anything right. There's 2 reasons for this. One, you're not going to do anything right because it's going to be a new lifestyle. You're not going to be used to it. And also, they want to get you to understand that you're not thinking on your own anymore, that you are a team and that you need to start working in a team. You'll get acquired with morning fitness. You think it's really hard at first, but red phase is actually the easiest phase out of all the different phases that you go through. Many can't take the mental adjustments that need to happen during red phase, but if you just push through it, you can make it through red phase, and basic training only gets more enjoyable as you go on. White phase, or gunfire phase, is where basic starts to get fun. This is where you start firing all the different Army Standard issued weapons. During phase 2, you'll spend most of your time on the different gun ranges. You'll start with your basic M16A2. You move first to targets. It's a simple standard targets. Then you start with pop-up targets, targets while you're moving into convoys. Then you start throwing grenades. You get into the larger weapons like grenade launchers. You start bayonet, how to fight with bayonets, how to do hand-to-hand combat. Towards the end of gunfire phase, you start with the the larger weapons like anti-tank weapons, and you'll learn everything you need to know about all the different weapons. You'll be given your M16 and you will take it everywhere with you. This is going to pretty much be like your child. You will take it with you, you will clean it, you will take it to the bathroom, but you will never call it the bathroom when you're in the Army. You will call it the latrine, just a side note. You will know every part of that weapon, how to take it apart, and how to put it back together before basic is over. If you lose your M16, I don't even want to think of what might possibly happen if you were to lose your M16 in basic combat training. You might also notice that drill sergeants aren't yelling as much. They're actually starting to act human. Despite what you think they're not going soft, you're just starting to do things right, which is a good feeling. Blue phase or warrior phase is very challenging, but is the most fun of basic training. During the first few weeks of blue phase, you'll take your PT test. If you don't pass your PT test, you won't get to go to the field exercise, which is known as camping. But with all the exercising and physical demands that you've already gone through, the chances that you won't pass your PT test are pretty slim. You have to pass your PT test with 150 to pass basic training. Once you complete your final requirements, you'll go camping, which is honestly the best part of basic training. You'll learn how to set up a camp, the different standard Army tents, medical tents, all that stuff. You'll learn about night patrols, and you'll pretty much put everything that you've learned through basic training together. There'll be times when you have to go through tactical situations. The drill sergeants will be there, but they are only there to make sure you don't get hurt. All the decisions will be up to you and your platoon leaders. And so this is like probably the funnest part of basic training, because you're just putting everything you've learned together. Graduation is next, and is a huge moment of victory for people going through basic training. Your friends and family can come to basic training. It's really common to get comments on the drastic change. I know that I saw it in all my brothers. It was a good change. It was a respectful change. It was just a change that came with the uniform. So one thing that I had to ask myself when I was thinking of going into the military, and anybody that's planning on going into the military should ask themselves, is it going to be worth it? Is the mental and physical demands going to be worth it? Is being homesick and physically sick going to be worth it? Is being yelled at for 15 weeks going to be worth it? I personally think it's worth it. There's a huge list of reasons why it is worth it, from honor, integrity, bettering yourself, meeting a higher purpose with your life, getting that honor behind your name that comes with being in the Army and the uniform. Or even if it's nothing like that, maybe it's getting your education paid for. The list of reasons is endless of why the Army is worth the process of basic training. Basic training is very mentally and physically challenging. Drill sergeants yell at you 24/7. You do crazy things that you would never get to do as a civilian. From going into a gas chamber, learning all the different weapons, the obstacle courses, learning about all the weapons, the push-ups, set-ups, from red phase to graduation, basic combat training is very challenging, and the Army is not for everyone. But if you push through it, the Army can be a very promising and fruitful career.